Órale, Cholo Truck, los tres chingones, boxing shots, all the chingones y chingonas. Yeah, no, I didn't plan on going live tonight, but figure I got a little bit of time on my hands, so let's go ahead and let's do it, especially since I got some plans for the rest of the week. Before I get rocking and rolling, want to give a shout out to the man, Dave Martinez from dmboxing.com. This is his t-shirt right here. Hope that brother's doing very, very well, man. So we weren't on last Friday, and we're not going to be on this Friday either. Why, you ask? Hey, man, my Dodgers are doing it up. Okay, that's it. That's the only reason. My Dodgers are doing it up, man. But you know what? In all reality, there's a lot of cheeseman going on, as there always is in boxing. However, boxing itself, yeah, there may be like some deep cut fights across the pond and all that, which I personally I like watching some of that stuff, man. David and Mikey, not so much, but there's not actually a lot going on in boxing on this side of the world. Yeah, I saw that Danny Garcia fought. We'll probably touch on that in a second, man. But what I really want to go ahead and touch on for a few minutes, because I want you guys to catch me up on to speed on everything that's going on in the boxing world. Not that I've been completely tapped out, because I haven't, right? But since my Dodgers have been rocking and rolling, I haven't spent as much time, being a nerd on boxing like I usually am. I'm still keeping up with the business in boxing, but not as well ever since my Dodgers, made it to the NLCS. What's up, Pete Town? Yeah, it's going down on G. Lou's show tonight, man. See, hey, Pastor, how you doing, sir? There's my Dodgers also. Yeah. So that's why we weren't on last Friday, because it was the Dodgers NLCS, and this Friday we're not going to be on because it's Game 1 of the World Series. So yeah. But anyway, something that I do want to touch on before we get into all the other anything else that's going on in the boxing world is the event I went to on Saturday. It was 911 Fight Nights. That's what you guys see on the thumbnail. Look, I ain't gonna lie about this, Toms. Okay, I've never heard of this event. Apparently, they used to do it before. I interviewed them here on this channel, right? And he said they used to do it pretty often, but ever since COVID, that kind of went away, and now they're bringing it back. I don't know if it was the way it was because it was the first time them coming back. Usually when you bring something back, usually, it pops, right? And then maybe sometimes it just kind of fithers away. But I'm going to tell you guys this, Holmes. That sucker was a blast and a half, homie. That sucker was a blast and a half, dog. That thing was all that and a bag of chips, Holmes. I've been to the Fairplex in Pomona plenty of times, right? For all type of different events. I've never been to the Derby Room. I've heard about the Derby Room, but I've never been there. It was at the Derby Room, not inside, but outside. That place was popping, dog. Damn, that place was popping. That place was rocking and rolling. The fights were good. I didn't take much footage. I went live while I was there and happened to catch one fight from beginning to end, and it was good. And I'm not gonna say that was the best fight of the night, but it was one of the best fights of the night. I don't remember how many fights there were that night. Okay, I don't. But I will tell you guys this, though. The Huras had the blue corner, right? While the firefighters had the red corner. And then you had a couple of paramedics that threw down as well. But for the most part, it was Huras versus firefighters. I'll tell you guys this, dog. I didn't, keep a tally on it, but the Hudas are the ones that took all the W's, dog. Well, not all of them, but they took most of them, by far most of them. However, I will say this. I will say this. The best fighter, not the best fight, the best fighter of the night was a bombero, was a straight firefighter. What's up, Andrew? You know that, man. The best fighter overall, just the fighter, just the dude, just the person himself. It was a firefighter. Yes. But in all reality, man, I think there were like close to 15 fights. Something there was a lot of fights, man. There was a lot of fights. They moved them along very well. All right. I'm gonna say the Hudas. If there were 15 fights, maybe there were only 13. I don't know. I didn't keep count. Okay. But I'm gonna say the Hudas took about 80% of the fights, man. They did. The Hainas included. I think there was like 3-4 fights that were Hainas. And they were all good, man. They were all good. I'm planning on having one of the promoters back on here. They do this every year, and I want to make it a yearly thing that I go. Not only that. Check this out, chingones. Check this out, homes. I'm gonna try to throw my name in the hat, homie, because ain't nobody showing it. Ain't nobody showing it. Ain't nobody calling the fights. Ain't nobody doing any of that. They recorded it. Yes, they had cameras, but it wasn't live. So I'm gonna throw my name in the hat and say, like, hey, check this out, man. If I take my own equipment next year, I don't need no feria. I don't need no sponsor. I don't need no anything. All I need is for you just to block off a section for me. I'll go live and I'll call the fights, man. So, but hey, man, check this out, dog. I recommend going to this. I'm not saying that just because I went there. Like I said, maybe it was just because it was the first year back, since they hadn't done it in what, 4 or 5 years, ever since COVID. Maybe that's why it was popping and rocking, dog. But if it's like that every year, it was a party. It was a party. Definitely was. I only got one complaint, and I will bring it to their attention. I only got one complaint, dog. One complaint and one complaint only. I wasn't drinking any alcohol that night. Okay. But I went, I got my tacos, I got my street dog, right? And I'm like, all right, cool. What do you guys got to drink? And they're like, oh, we don't have drinks. Like, you want to have a soda or water or anything? They're like, no, they didn't allow us to sell any drinks. I'm like, so it's just food? And she's all like, well, there's the drink line right there. And it was the line next to me. And I'm like, that's the alcohol line. And she's all like, yeah, that's where you got. I'm like, wait a second. Man, this sucker's as long as the eye can see. I'm not here for a mixed drink, Holmes. I'm here just to get just even a bottle of water. I'm cool with that. You guys don't have any bottles of water, nothing? They're like, nah, you got to go on that line. I got to go stand in that damn line with all these alcoholics, just like you, just to get a bottle of water or a can of soda, a 12-ounce can of soda. I got to go stand in this long-ass line. And, of course, I had to do it. Had the food in my hand. Tacos are getting cold. Wait in line. And, of course, Holmes, I had to have a group of like 5 Hainas in front of me that all wanted mixed drinks. I get up there. Finally, it's my turn. My tacos are like ice cold. I get 1 can of soda and a bottle of water. So that's my only gripe. That was my only gripe. So next time, I know, go get the drinks first. If I'm not drinking alcohol, go get the drinks first, then go get the food. But other than that, Lakers season start today. Yes, it does. NBA kicks off today. All right. So fights were good. Fights were not messy. You could definitely tell they were not boxers. Okay, some actually look pretty damn good. I'm gonna be real with you guys, man. Some of these first responders look like they got some skills, dog. On the real, some of them look. I was just like, wow, okay, they look like amateurs. They look like amateurs, man. They look like they've been doing this for a while. So they definitely took, training and sparring and, talking to James, saying like, hey, man, they trained at our gym. This person trained at our gym and we had them spar so much. And I was like, okay, you could tell, man. You could tell, it wasn't just a bunch of dudes just getting in there and just, throwing haymakers, man. Sometimes when you get, I've been a part of these like YouTube fights, right? And sometimes when you get some of these YouTubers in there, it just looks very sloppy and just, but that's what I expect, right? Because I'm like, okay, they're not boxers, but these dudes, some did look a little bit sloppy. Okay. I didn't see anybody. I didn't see anybody at all that looked completely sloppy. At worst, they looked más o menos, a little below decent. But then I saw some people where I was just like, damn, okay, they look like they've been doing this for a few years. So I highly, highly, highly recommend this event. I'm going to get at them. Hopefully I could bring them back on. They could talk a little bit more about it, how they're going to plan it for next year. Hopefully they could throw your boy a bone right here, Holmes, and I could go over there and call the fights next year. The last fight, because I do got some questions. Because they had a halftime, right, which was a raffle giveaway, and it was a jam-packed house. I mean, it was a packed house. They had a raffle, and then they're like, okay, after the raffle is the main event. So I'm like, oh, okay, so it's not really halftime. They're just doing the raffle and then the main event and then show's over. Well, no, they did the main event and there were still like 4 or 5 more fights afterward. And I was just like, wait, how is that the main event if you still got like 4 fights afterwards? The very last dude that fought, he was a truck driver. The last 2 dudes that fought, I don't think were first responders. I ran into homeboy who recognized me from Cholo Trucker. And he's all like, oh, man, you know what? That dude right there, he's a truck driver. And I'm like, okay, so he's a Huron. Like, no. These guys ain't first responders. I'm like, oh, all right. So I'm like, yeah, he's a truck driver, man. So I'm like, all right, good thing he won. I went, I shook his hand. I ran into a couple of people that I realized Popeye Ray was there, but he was only there for, a quick minute. He wasn't there all night long. Shouts to Popeye Ray. He went there. He made his appearance and did what he had to do. And I don't know. I guess, he probably had some other stuff to do that night. But nonetheless, he did show up, show his face, show some support. If you guys remember Ponce de Leon, he was there, man. If you guys remember his fights. Oh, yeah, Ponce de Leon with his little freaking ponytail, man. Ponce de Leon was there. It was cool, man. It was a good, fun night. Good, fun night, man. Really enjoyed myself. So I'm hoping to get them back on and very, very soon. I'm not talking about next year, but hopefully very, very soon. And we can go ahead and talk a little bit about the event a little bit more, how it went, the whole fallout of the whole thing, and how does it look for next year, because they had taken like a 5-year hiatus. So anyway, I just want to go ahead and touch on that for a little bit. Now let's go ahead and get into some actual stuff that's going on in the boxing world. Like I said, when I first went live, there's actually not a lot of boxing going on, man. Danny Garcia fought over the weekend. I did not get a chance to watch it. I got a chance to watch some highlights on YouTube. I wasn't even really sure how to watch it. I don't know if any of you guys saw it or not. He did win. He fought at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. I didn't even know Gabe Rosado was in the undercard. Gabe Rosado had started a podcast with Abner Mares called Mi Gallo. I'm not sure, man. I'm not sure if they really they don't really keep up with it anymore. It was one of my favorites for a minute when they were doing it weekly, and they're not really paying too much attention to it anymore. I did see that they dropped like an interview, and then they just been chopping up some shorts. First of all, I haven't seen Abner Mares on Mi Gallo for a minute or two. Gabe, as far as Gabe Rosado goes, obviously he was preparing for this fight. Like I said, I had no idea he was fighting. Chop Gonzalez won TKO. Yeah, okay. So I was watching a little bit of the highlights. What's up, C-Dog? I didn't know where to watch it. I heard it was pay-per-view through Swift, Danny Swift Garcia, through his promotion. I forgot what it was called. But obviously I wasn't even home. I was at that event, 911 event. So I didn't even know how to watch it. When I got home, I'm like, okay, how do I see it? And talking to a few people, they didn't even know how to watch it. They didn't even know how to order it. Not to say that I knew anybody that was going to order and pay for it, but some people just told me, like, I don't even know how to order it on pay-per-view. So I was just like, damn. And from what I understand, and the way it looked like, just from watching the highlights, that place looked empty. It looked empty, dog. That Barclays Center did not look even half packed. That sucker looked like it was, man, it looked like it was 65% empty. So I don't know what's the deal with Danny Garcia. I think he can still somewhat draw a little bit. I think his name still has a little bit of value. But like you said, Pete Town, if he has the right opponent in front of him, I don't think he'll ever be what he once was. And even what he was once upon a time, he was never an elite fighter. At some point, he was somewhat of a popular fighter. And he was I would say, good, decent fighter, but he was never great. And apparently he still wants to fight, but that I forgot what he said, dog. He's like partially retired, which I don't even really know what that means, because if you're partially retired in the sport of boxing, homie, that basically just says you're done competing. You're going to fight nothing but pure tomato cans, which is fine. But if you want to be seen and you want to make a little bit of feria, you got to be in the undercards. The next big card, whatever that may be, because a lot of these cards are full already. You probably have you probably still have enough star power left, not for you to be the co-main event, especially if you're not fighting anybody. If you're just fighting another tomato can, for damn sure you won't be the co-main event. But maybe the fight before the co-main event. Maybe. Then it looked like he beat up his little brother. Yeah, dog. I knew nothing about his opponent. I knew nothing about him. And easy work for him. And I thought this would have got just a little bit more spotlight. Like I said, I had no idea that Gabe Rosado was even fighting. And I'm not even really sure if they're doing their podcast anymore. Let me see. Still subscribed. Yeah, I'm still subscribed to them. Yeah, but you think about Charlo versus Boots, or Crawford. Okay. All right, let's get into this, man. Let's get into this. How much longer should we wait? I mean, not should we wait, because we're gonna wait regardless. But what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is, how much longer until the boxing world starts putting pressure on Crawford on what is he going to do to make up his mind? You staying at 168 or not? Just make up your mind. That's it. Not even talking about when are you going to fight again. All we need to know is, are you sticking around at 168 or not? Because as of right now, everything is just speculation. Oh, he said this. Oh, he said that. He said, oh, I think this. Oh, I think this is a better fit for him. Right. But nothing is actually official. He can say whatever the heck he wants, unless he relinquishes the belts and say, that's it. I'm out of this division. Whether he fights in the beginning of next year or this time next year, doesn't matter. But as long as he relinquishes all the belts, that is making a decision. Him coming out and saying like, you know what? I think I'm going to go down to 160. That's not making a decision. Making the decision is by him getting all the belts. All right, I'm out of here. All the belts are free to 168. Because if he does that, hey, homie, we can have a lot of fun at 168, dog. A lot of good matchups, a lot of different directions we can go. But if he's still holding on to the straps, it's just kind of like, okay, I think a lot of these fighters are still going to want to, sit on their hands or take an easy fight because they're feeling like, well, wait a second, man. Hold on. What's Crawford going to do? Because I want to get a belt. Because if I get one of those belts, I can have a little bit more marquee value. I could bring that belt to the negotiation table. Now I have something that other fighters want. But as long as this dude holds on to the belts, just leading everybody to believe he's going to 160, but not actually saying, okay, I am going to 160, so here's all the belts. I'm relinquishing them all right now. That is making the decision, not telling everybody he's thinking about 160 or even saying he's going to 160. When you relinquish the belts, that's the decision, not just saying that you're going to 160, which I do like him at 160. I do. I think Crawford will go back down to 160. There's some good matchups there. Crawford just enjoyed the moment right now. Yeah, he's enjoying it. I see Crawford at WWE football games. I don't know what WWE football games you're talking about, dog. You're talking about like the UFL or the... Hey, when the XFL came back, we had a team right here called the Wildcats, man. I bought me a hat, bought me a jersey, got me a rally towel, and then COVID shut it down. And when the XFL came back, LA never got a team back. So I just like, damn, gotcha. I still got the jersey, still got the hat, still got the rally towel, man. I still remember the sign too. Wildcats. It was so much fun. Damn, it was so much fun, dog. But I understand. Crawford, have fun. You know what? That was the biggest fight of your life. You won. I get that. I understand. I'm not even rushing him. I'm just simply saying, how long? Is it till the end of the year? January? if we don't get a decision, again, I told you guys what a decision is. Him saying it doesn't mean anything. Him holding on to the belts and saying, I'm going to defend it or relinquish the belts, that is action. That is making a decision, not just him saying it. So he could say, you know what, I'm going to go down to 160. Okay, then give up the belts. Because if you don't give up the belts, that's not a decision. So I'm not even trying to rush the dude. I'm just saying how long. I'm asking how long. To the end of next month? December-ish? January? WWE and Rams. Okay, got you. I'll tell you, man. I'm going to tell you guys something right now, okay? I'll tell you guys something right now, since nobody else is watching and it's just us. Okay, next year says P-Town, okay. You guys already know my two loves is boxing and wrestling, right? Both of them now. I mean, boxing isn't quite there yet, but I feel which way the wind is blowing. Both of them now are going to be under Saudi. Saudi Arabia got into wrestling about 10 years ago, right? That was the first Crown Jewel show. I'm not going to get all nerdy on wrestling, all right? Just hear me out. They just shook hands and did business with the WWE. At that point, the WWE still 100% was owned by Vince McMahon. But Saudi Arabia said, like, hey, you know what? We'll pay you a gang of feria, man. You come do some shows over here. I was like, all right, cool. And they were doing some massive shows over there. Crown Jewel, it was called. And then they had the greatest Royal Rumble of all time. And then one thing led to another. So many politics. Vince McMahon being a freaking freak didn't help. And now guess what? Now the Saudis own WWE. And now the biggest, greatest show ever in human history when it comes to wrestling in 2027 is going to be in Saudi Arabia. Many other countries have earned the right through their fan base, have earned the right to get a WrestleMania, because WrestleMania has never been outside of North America. I've been to WrestleMania before, a few of them. It's never been outside of North America. And I thought, you know what? Maybe Paris will get it. Maybe Dublin, Ireland will get it, because they're those fan bases are like hardcore. Heck, even Japan. Nah, none of them are getting it. Saudi is. And now Saudi's all over boxing too. Night of the Samurai. Night of the Japanese, Holmes, right? Night of the Samurai. Damn, that sounds freedom, dog. That sounds badass, dog. I like the way that sounds. Well, where do you think that's going to be at? You got all the Japanese fighters getting in the ring, Night of the Samurai. Nakatani, you got a Monster Inoue. They're calling it Night of the Samurai. Is it going to be in Japan, though? Nah. It's in Saudi. It's in Saudi. Yeah, dog. Getting the fights, getting some good fights. I'm not even really complaining. It's just not the way I want it to be. Life is not a movie. You don't always get what you want. All right. Crawford only fights. Yeah, he only fights once a year. Okay. Pete Town is saying next year. Okay. When next year? I think it needs to be pretty quick, dog. I think it needs to be in January. Honestly, I'd say after Christmas or the first 2 weeks of January, he needs to make up his mind. Here's the thing, because it's not just, hey, we want to see you in the ring again. It's okay, dog. This whole division is here waiting. They're waiting. And some of these fights, man, some of these badass fights that can be made at 168, some of these fights could be marketable as title fights. But we can't make them title fights. We could still make the fights. And I've told you guys before, personally, I'm not going to say titles don't mean anything. But just when I think about it in history, like all the big fights, when De La Hoya fought Fernando Vargas, what title was it for? Was it even for a title? I don't even remember. I remember the fight. I don't know what title it was for. Or was it even for a title? When De La Hoya fought Mosley, when I think of one of the best heavyweight fights of all time, or whenever anybody asks me, hey, what's the best heavyweight fight you've ever seen? The first fight that comes to mind, I'm not saying it's the best, but the first fight that comes to mind, George Foreman versus Evander Holyfield, 1991. Was it for a championship fight? I don't know. I remember the fight vividly. Was it for a title? I don't know. And if it was for a title, I don't know what title it was for. I remember the fight. I did hear about a Canelo rematch in May. Could be. Could be. Canelo was supposed to fight in February, apparently. He's having the elbow surgery, so he's out of commission for a little bit. And I think Mike Coppinger said that he will be returning around he'll be ready to go about April-ish, which basically just means May, Cinco de Mayo time. A rematch. You guys want to see a rematch? You know what? Let me bring up the poll here, because I did drop a poll on this. If you guys want to see a rematch, let me see. Okay. All right, here we go. Do you want a rematch between Canelo versus Crawford? Okay, the answers are yes, no, not right away, and either way doesn't matter to me. All right, you guys let me know. Crawford versus Canelo. Do you want to see that rematch? All right. So we got 62 votes. I'll start from the lowest to highest. Not right away, got 0 votes. Not 1 vote. That is pathetic, dog. 5% went to either way, doesn't matter to me. No got 39%, and yes got 56% out of 62 votes. So out of these 62 people, 56 of them do want to see the rematch. I'll be honest, man. Look, I kind of go with the option of either way doesn't matter to me. I'd rather see them fight somebody else. I do. I'd rather see Crawford go down to 160 and make some noise down there. If Canelo's going to continue, I'd rather see him fight some other dudes at 168. Here's another poll that I dropped. Do you still want to see Canelo versus Benavidez? Aha. That's another poll I dropped. When I dropped that? 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I dropped. Do you still want to see Canelo versus Benavidez? You guys remember, okay? All you vatos remember, that's the only match anybody wanted to see. The only one that rivaled that match with real boxing junkies, right, is Bivol and Beterbiev before they fought. Before they fought, okay? But everybody wanted Canelo versus Benavidez. Right under that, you had Bivol versus Beterbiev, but that fight wasn't as popular because not too many people know who those guys are. But within the boxing junkie heads, yes, people really want to see those two fights. Okay. Well, we got one, right? And they fought twice, and we'll probably get a trilogy out of that. So now we got 23. Man, we only got 23 votes on this one. I'll start with the lowest to highest. Okay, so the options are yes, no, sure, but I'd rather see them fight other opponents, and depends on what weight they fight in. Okay, so from the lowest to highest, depends on what weight they fight in, only got 4%. Damn, that's low. 13% goes to sure, but I'd rather see them fight other opponents. 30% said yes, and 52% said no. They do not want to see Canelo versus Benavidez. Let's see. Rematch and retire. Okay, rematch and retire for who, Pete Town? For both of them? Or just one of them? Yes, Canelo versus Benavidez. Okay, well, let me ask you this, Andrew. Let me ask you this. At what weight class? What weight class should they fight at? Benavidez said he's not moving back down to 168. I know people, like to say like, he'll do it for Canelo. He'll do it for Canelo. And maybe he will. And maybe he will. But let's just go with what he says. What if he doesn't? Should Canelo go up to 175 to fight Benavidez? He's been up there twice, and he's 1 for 1. Let me see. Crawford versus Ortiz. You know, homie, dog. That I've been screaming about this fight on this channel for a long time. That is my dream fight that we're never gonna get. Now, some people have told me, even after what you saw Crawford did to Canelo, you still want to see Crawford versus Ortiz? I said yes. And everybody's all like, no, man. After we did to Canelo, come on, dog. It's like, whoa, wait a second. What does that mean? Ortiz isn't Canelo. By the way, Canelo probably beats Ortiz. This whole triangular thing doesn't work in boxing. The thing is, the reason why Crawford was able to look so damn good against Canelo is because Canelo does not throw a lot of punches. He looks for that one punch. He does not have a bunch of combinations in his arsenal. I still think Ortiz can probably beat Crawford. I'm not saying he will. But I think he'll put a much better fight against Crawford than Canelo did. Canelo. Okay, so you're saying rematch and then Canelo retire. Okay. P-Town, what if Canelo wins? Should there be a trilogy? You're saying retire. You're saying rematch and then retire. What if Canelo wins? Should there be a trilogy, Holmes? Okay, Andrew, 168. Okay, but again, what if Benavidez says childless, homie? I'm not going down to 168. I'm down to fight Canelo, but you got to move up. Because in my opinion, dog, look. All right. Here's what I'll say when it comes to this fight, right? Canelo versus Benavidez, the fight that everybody wanted. Everybody wanted that fight. Now it's kind of faded off a little bit. That's why I was interested. That's why I was interested on how everybody else felt. Do you still want to see that fight the way you once wanted it? Or is it just kind of, yeah, sure, if it happens, I guess? Because that wasn't the feeling once upon a time. Once upon a time, it was just like, oh man, we don't get the fights that we want. And in reality, all everybody was ever talking about was Canelo versus Benavidez. That is the only fight anybody was talking about when they were talking about, oh, we don't get the fights that we want in boxing. That was the only damn fight people were talking about. Now I don't hear anybody talking about it. That's why I'm interested. Does the boxing world still want to see this fight? And now there is a chasm. Because we can speculate. We can speculate and say, like, "Ooh, if the money's right, Benavidez will come down to 168." Sure, to a certain degree, I kind of believe that, but we don't know. We don't know. By the way, Benavidez isn't even after a Canelo fight right now. I think he's in a good fight against Anthony Yarde, man. That's going to be a good one. Maybe class weight. I think he meant catch weight. Maybe that catch weight. Okay. 168, 175. Yeah, maybe do it at 170, 171. Crawford Boots. That's another good one. I'd like to see that one as well. Boots versus Ortiz. Winner gets Crawford. That's not bad. That's not bad. You hear what everybody you hear what everybody's saying, Holmes? You hear what everybody's saying, and it's exactly what I was touching on just a little earlier. Boots versus Ortiz is the biggest fight at 154 pounds. Neither one of them is a champion. You got 4 champions. 4. You got Fundora, the Towering Inferno, Fundora, Abbas Baru, where that guy just came out of nowhere. Freaking Bakram Murtazaliev and Xander Zayas. Yet the biggest fight at 154 pounds doesn't involve any of those dudes. Imagine that. Now, would I like to see Boots versus Virgil? Yeah, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see that. However, the way I was hearing like Chris Mannix talk about it, I'm passionate on that fight happening, but I don't think it needs to happen right away. There's other good fights. Like let's say, here's what I mean by that. Let's say the next fight, well, first of all, Virgil has to get past Erickson Lubin. I don't think Erickson Lubin is just some easy pushover, dog. Virgil's going to struggle more with Lubin than Boots did with Lima, because Lima was a complete nobody. Lubin, that dude's battle tested. That dude's battle tested, and I do believe he's coming to win. Lima did not show up to win. Lima just went in there to whatever, Holmes. But Lubin's going there to win. He's a rugged, tough dude, Holmes. So, I mean, again, I'm Virgil. I think Virgil's gonna take care of it, but it's gonna be a little bit tougher. No one want to fight Virgil. Okay, so here's what I was saying. Chris Mannix was so passionate about Boots versus Ortiz, right? Even though neither one of them is champion. And I agree, that is the biggest fight to be made at 154. However, to me, it's not, if they don't fight each other next, it's a loss. No, I think there's great fights to be made there. If Boots fights Bakram Murtazaliev or Abbas Baru, I'm happy with that. If Virgil Ortiz fights the Towering Inferno, Fundora, or Xander Zayas, I'm cool with that. To me, it's not like, hey, they need to fight each other next. And if they don't, oh, man, everything is just ruined. No, dog, there's really good fights to make. As a matter of fact, Boots and Virgil may not even face each other till 160. I remember not that long ago, the real talk was Zayas versus Virgil. Why? You know, it was the Puerto Rico, Mexico thing. Yeah, I get it. Virgil's not really from Mexico, but you guys get it, though. He's Chicano, right? But you know, it just goes to show what I've been saying for a long time, dog. And what Eddie Hearn comes out and says, like, oh man, you know what? You know, these titles, the lineage to these titles. And yeah, sure, to a certain degree. But if we're gonna be honest, dog, think about the fights. Hey, orale, Mile High Hustle, big dog. What's going on, homie? Hey, I'm gonna text you as soon as I get off of here, homie. I'm gonna text you as soon as I get off. Mile High Hustle has a fight coming up this Saturday. Damn, what was I gonna say? Ah, that's right. Think about all the fights from before. All your favorite fights. Like I just named a few. De La Hoya versus Vargas, Fernando Vargas. I don't know what title they fought for. I remember the fight. I don't know what championship they fought for. If I don't even know if they fought for a title. George Foreman versus Evander Holyfield will always go down in my mind as one of the best heavyweight fights I've ever seen in 1991. I don't know why, but I could watch that fight over and over and over again. I love that fight. I don't know what title they fought for. If they even fought for a title, I don't know. What titles were the Four Kings fighting for? I don't know. Just over the weekend, no, not this weekend, the previous weekend, I was showing somebody Hagler versus Hearns, right? Youngster came over to the pad and he was telling me that he's been watching some boxing and you know, getting into boxing a little bit. And I'm all like, you've ever heard of Hagler versus Hearns? He's all like, yeah. I'm like, have you seen it? He's all like, no. I said, let's watch it real quick. It's a quick fight. It's a quick fight. Hagler versus Hearns is quick, man. Sucker doesn't even go a full 3 rounds. All right, let's watch it. I don't know what title they fought for, Holmes. I remember the fight. Heck, everybody does. Everybody remembers, you know, Gotti versus Ward. I don't know what titles were on the line, what titles weren't. If there was even a title on the line, I don't know. Pacquiao, Marquez, all these great fights. Barrera, Morales. Does everybody remember? Okay, you know, does anybody remember? Hey, man, you know when Pacquiao fought Marquez the second time, it was the WBA that was on the line and the WBC. But when they fought the third time, those 2 titles and the IBF were involved. Does anybody remember that? Because I don't. I remember the fights. Yes. I remember how entertaining they were. I remember, you know, where I was at. I remember being like, damn, I remember who I was kicking it with. I remember all that. I don't remember what titles were on the line, if there were even titles on the line. Let me see. Virgil versus Spence in Texas. Dog. Andrew, you must not like Spence, homie. You must really want Spence to, damn. Virgil was slaughtered. Whoa, you know what? Who knows, dog? Who knows? We could speculate. I think Virgil kills Spence. I think he does. But, you know, we don't know, dog. We don't know. I mean, he took a good ass whooping from Crawford. It's been a long time. I believe that he's definitely not the guy he used to be, but who knows, dog? Maybe he's different. Maybe that time away really did good for him. Who knows? I don't think so. Some great fights, 154. Yeah, for sure. No title. Yeah, I, I don't know, dog. When I thinking back in history, when Chavez fought De La Hoya, I don't know what belt they fought for. That was like the biggest fight in my household, man. My family is from south of the border. I'm first generation here, barely, by the way. Some of my older cousins just like 5 years older than me, were actually born in Mexico. So I just like barely, barely made it here, dog, to be an American, right? So like the biggest fight in my household when I was young was that De La Hoya versus Chavez. Dog, I couldn't tell you if they even fought for a title or didn't fight for a title. I got no idea. And if they did, I couldn't tell you what titles they fought for. Spence, damaged goods. I think he's definitely damaged, Holmes. I think he's definitely damaged. Hey, by the way, Mile High Hustle, if you tap into G-Lu in about 30 minutes, Pomona Soul Sounds, his playlist is going to be on there. Let me see, Pomona. I agree. We'll talk about them fighting. I will say this. I think it does do some numbers, especially both of them being in Texas. I think, but in reality, if you're going to do something like that, you got to make people believe, right? Even if you're fooling people. But you got to be a used car salesman, okay? You got to sell people a lemon. How do you do that? You bring Spence back against a complete nobody. If you need to pay that nobody money, you pay that nobody money and just say, dog, take a dive or something, right? Or just make sure that Spence is going to win. But he's got to look good. And if Spence finishes this complete nobody in 2, 3, 4 rounds and looks sensational, then you can build, a Virgil versus Spence in Texas. Now you could build it up. Yeah, you're probably a used car salesman trying to sell them a lemon. Get it? But that's how you could build it back up. Let's see. The fight was a unification bout for the WBC, WBA, and IBF lightweight titles. Don't make me block you, Holmes. Don't make me block you, dog. Don't make me block. See, I like you too, dog. I'm over here saying that, your playlist is gonna be on G-Lu show tonight. Don't do that, B-Town. Don't do that, Holmes. Don't do that. Yeah, time to go look it up, dog. What a genius, Holmes. Oscar and Vargas. Okay, the Oscar and Vargas fight. Yeah, even that fight was big because I remember at that time, a lot of the vatos were hating on Oscar, homie. Because he was like a pretty boy and everything like that. He started getting into singing. You guys remember Oscar De La Hoya had a little bit of a singing career, and here comes Vargas, right? Rugged dude from Oxnard, the 805, homie. You know what I mean? He ain't no pretty boy. He ain't about anything like that, dog. He's from the streets. Dudes really started rocking with Vargas, Holmes. They didn't like Oscar. And why didn't they like Oscar? Vatos are going to be real with it, right? We're keeping it real. Vatos didn't like Oscar because their highness had a crush on Oscar. Let's just be honest, Holmes. Let's just be honest. All the vatos were all hating, dog, because their ladies loved Oscar. Now, this is before he got into all the nylons and pantyhose and all that stuff, right? But that's what really happened. So everybody started jumping on the bandwagon of Vargas. It was a good fight, dog. It was a badass fight, homie. And then Vargas popped dirty afterwards, Let's see, Vargas. was thrown to the dogs. Yeah, he was, man. Yeah, he was. He was, and he was a hothead too, man. He that was one thing that had to respect about Vargas, man. He was willing to get in there with everybody. He was too. That's why you need a team to keep you level. You know, he thought he wanted the biggest and the best, and you got to give him that. You know, and I do. But that's why you got to have a team to say, you know, to say like, no, 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 no. It's not time yet. Hold on. Hold on. I get it. You're a dog, homie. You're a dog. I get it, man. You want to sink your teeth into that flesh, but hold on. You know, let us do your job and let us do our job. But unfortunately, you know, he didn't have that type of management, man. Facts. Yeah, that's why everybody hated Oscar, dog. That's just being real. That's why everybody hated Oscar. What's up, Dimitro? Boxing sucks. Well, that's what when I started this live, that's what I was talking about, dog. So I'm coming to the end here. We weren't live last Friday because my Dodgers were in the NLCS. We're not going to be live this Friday because my Dodgers are in the World Series. The following Friday, we might be live. But in reality, in all reality, there's not a lot of boxing going on. Yeah, there's some stuff going on across the pond. You got Price versus Wardley. There's nothing really going on over here. What happened over the weekend? Danny Garcia had some chump fight that nobody was really able to watch. I went ahead and I saw the highlights to it. So there's not really a lot of boxing going on. So this kind of works out a little bit. I talked to the boys, and yeah, you know, they agreed. There's not a lot of boxing going on right now. There's a lot of cheese man, right? So if we were to do a show, it was gonna be a lot of cheese man talk. Tito Oscar Mosley. So those Dimitro go. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Back to back. Yeah. But I just want to come on here, jump on real quick, talk about the event that I went to this past Saturday. Mile High Hustle right here. He does have a fight this Saturday. I'm gonna shoot you a text right now, homie. As soon as I get out of here. He does have a fight this Saturday. I'll come back to you guys with all the details. Like there's not much boxing going on this weekend anyways. So hopefully you guys can tap into that. But with that, I'm gonna go ahead and tap up out of here. I might go live later on this week, not on Friday, but later on this week. Probably have a couple of guests come on, talk about certain boxing organizations, small promotions. I met some people at the event that I went to. Good people. They're doing things with the youngsters, and just want to give them a little bit of shine. That's all. So if I do come back on live, it's going to be doing things like that. I'll probably reach out to my boy next week, Mr. David Martinez, boxing historian, and we'll probably just talk about old school boxing, dog. Sadio, man. We'll probably get into like some, gosh, I love talking old school boxing with him. That guy, you just bring up a name. You bring up a Hector Macho Camacho. You bring up Bazooka Limon. You bring up, Ray Boom Boom Mancini. You bring up any old school boxer, that guy just has so much damn knowledge. It's badass, man. But with that, all right, I'm going to get up out of here. You guys have a buenas noches. And I'll definitely jump back on this week. And we'll probably talk about like some small promotions or something. I'll try to get something going, all right? But I know boxing is a little bit slow right now, but we're going to keep it rocking and rolling. All right, pues. Cho Choclos, Tres Chingones Boxing. I'll catch you guys on next round.